Echoes from Tuesday. Chapter 1. The First Sound. It started on a Tuesday. Not that anyone noticed right away. Most people in Hollowford barely noticed anything unless it blocked traffic or raised rent. But for Nora Shaw, the first time she heard it, the sound was impossible to ignore. She was on her balcony, halfway through a cigarette she'd sworn she wasn't going to have, when it drifted in. A faint murmur like a voice carried on wind from far away. Not singing, not speaking, just there. She froze, holding the smoke in her lungs until it burned. The sound wasn't coming from the street below, and it wasn't from any apartment nearby. It was behind her, inside her. Nora turned, expecting to see someone in her kitchen. Nothing. And then, as clearly as if it had been whispered in her ear, a voice said, "The glass will break at exactly 4:12. She blinked, waiting for more. But the voice was gone. The air was still. A car horn blared somewhere down Main. A dog barked twice normal sounds, returning like a curtain had fallen over something strange. By afternoon, she'd convinced herself it was nothing, the weird result of too little sleep and too much caffeine. Until 4:12. She was reaching for a jar in the cupboard when the glass French press on the counter tipped and fell. She didn't touch it. She didn't even look at it before it shattered into glittering pieces across the tiles. The sound was exactly as she'd imagined it. When she told her upstairs neighbor Janie, the woman went pale. "You heard it too?" Nora stared. "What do you mean too?" Janie looked over her shoulder before leaning closer. "Every Tuesday, always Tuesday, you hear something. Then it happens. Exactly the way it said." Nora laughed, a sharp, uneasy sound. "You're telling me the future calls in once a week?" Janie didn't laugh back. "I'm telling you that next week, it gets louder." Chapter 2. Second Tuesday. The week crawled by like a hangover. Slow, dull, and with a constant ache somewhere in the back of Nora's mind. She didn't tell anyone else about what she'd heard, not even her brother Liam, who was the only person in Hollowford she trusted not to laugh. Instead, she waited. By Monday night, she barely slept. The city outside her window carried on as usual, muffled sirens, the hum of late buses, someone arguing 2 streets over, but she lay there, tense, as if waiting for the curtain to rise on some terrible play. At 9:47 a.m. Tuesday, it happened. The world seemed to shift subtly, like a camera lens focusing. A faint vibration in the air brushed against her skin. Then, clear as water, "Do not open the blue envelope." Her chest tightened. There was no envelope. Not yet. By noon, she'd almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. She went to the corner store, bought milk, and ran into Liam on her way back. He was grinning, holding something behind his back. "Special delivery," he said. When he handed it to her, Nora's stomach dropped. A thin blue envelope. No stamp. No return address. Liam's grin faded. "You okay? You look..." She shoved it back at him. "Where did you get this?" "Was on your doormat." Figured it was from work. Her fingers itched to open it. She wanted to know. The paper was smooth under her touch, heavier than it looked. But the echo still rang in her head. "Do not open the blue envelope." She set it on the counter and backed away like it might explode. At 4:15, there was a knock at her door. A man in a dark coat stood there, eyes too sharp for a stranger. His gaze flicked past her into the apartment. "You haven't opened it," he said. Not a question. Nora's mouth went dry. "Who are you?" He smiled, but it didn't touch his eyes. "See you next Tuesday." And then he was gone. Chapter 3. The crowd. Nora didn't touch the blue envelope. She slid it into the back of her kitchen drawer, under a pile of takeout menus, though she could swear it sometimes made the faintest rustle when she passed. But that Tuesday, the echo didn't come while she was home. It hit her in the middle of a crowded intersection downtown, right as the crosswalk light turned green. The world seemed to pause. Traffic noise dulled, conversations blurred, and a prickling sensation crawled over her skin. "He will drop the case, and then he will bleed." The voice was neither urgent nor panicked, just stating a fact. She stopped dead in the flow of pedestrians. People brushed past, muttering. But Nora scanned the crowd, looking for, she didn't know what. Then she saw him. A man in a gray suit, walking quickly toward the curb with a worn leather briefcase. He looked ordinary, harried, late for something, until the clasp on his case slipped. Papers fanned out into the street. He cursed, stepped after them. A horn blared. Tires screeched. A delivery truck swerved too late. The crowd gasped as the man crumpled, a dark stain blooming across his shirt. Nora's stomach lurched. The echo had given her seconds, just seconds, and she'd done nothing. She didn't even know if she could have changed it. The paramedics came. People whispered. Traffic backed up for blocks. When Nora finally turned away, she saw him again, the man in the dark coat from last week, standing on the opposite sidewalk. He didn't move, didn't speak. But when their eyes met, he tapped his temple once, as if to say, "You're listening now." Chapter 4. The Warning. By the next Tuesday, Nora had stopped pretending she wasn't waiting for it. She didn't make plans, didn't leave the apartment. She sat in her kitchen with the blinds drawn, the clock ticking loud in the dimness. The blue envelope was still in the drawer, silent now, but she felt its weight in the air. At 11:03 a.m. the shift came. That faint ripple in reality, like her ears popping on a plane. The voice was clearer than it had ever been. At 8:26 tonight, you will be lying in the street. Don't scream. Her pulse jumped into her throat. Lying in the street? She gripped the table edge hard enough for her knuckles to ache. She spent the rest of the day pacing. She told herself she could lock the door, wedge it shut, hide in the bathtub if she had to. She even texted Liam to come over, but deleted the message before sending. By 8:20, her apartment felt too small, the air too thick. She peeked out the window. The street below looked normal, quiet. That's when her phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text read, "Look outside." Her chest tight, she stepped onto the balcony. A single car was idling by the curb, no driver in sight. The passenger door was open, a thin ribbon of music spilling into the night air. She couldn't make out the words, but it made her skin crawl. She should have gone back inside. Instead, she leaned just far enough to see hands on her back. A shove. The balcony rail gave under the sudden force. She tumbled, weightless, air rushing past her ears. Then pavement. The shock knocked the breath out of her. Her cheek pressed against cold asphalt. Above her, someone's shadow leaned over the balcony, watching. Chapter 5. The Man Upstairs. Nora's first thought, lying on the cold street, was that she couldn't move her legs. Her second was that she could still hear the music, soft, warbling, drifting from the open car door. Then footsteps. The man from the balcony appeared, stepping into the spill of lamplight. Not the stranger in the dark coat, this one was different. Mid-40s, wiry build, greasy hair slicked back. He looked down at her like he was trying to memorize the scene. Nora tried to speak, but only a croak came out. A door slammed. The man flinched, then bolted into the shadows, disappearing between buildings. By the time an elderly neighbor came rushing over, the car was gone too. Nora told the woman she'd slipped it was easier than explaining she'd been shoved by someone she'd never seen before, for reasons she didn't understand. But the next morning, she climbed the stairs to the unit above hers. The door was open. Inside, the place was empty, stripped bare. No furniture, no dishes, not even curtains. A stale smell clung to the air, and in one corner sat a battered tape recorder. She pressed play. Static. Then a voice, calm, deliberate. 8:26 tonight, you will be lying in the street. Don't scream. Her stomach turned cold. It was the same echo she'd heard the day before. Only now, she knew it hadn't just come from nowhere. Someone had recorded it, and maybe sent it to her. Chapter 6. The Factory. For the rest of the week, Nora kept the tape recorder in her apartment, tucked under her bed like something dangerous. She didn't play it again, couldn't. But she also couldn't stop thinking about it. By Tuesday morning, she had a new plan. If the echo came again, she'd look for where it came from, not just listen to it. At 10:15 a.m., the familiar ripple spread through her, raising the hair on her arms. Follow the red truck to the river. Don't lose sight of it. Her heart thumped hard. This was different. Not a warning, an instruction. 10 minutes later, she was in her car, trailing a beat-up red delivery truck through the city. It wound deeper into Holliford's industrial quarter, an area of shuttered warehouses and rusting chain-link fences. Finally, it turned into the lot of an old textile factory. the kind with broken windows and a roofline sagging under years of neglect. The driver got out, glanced around, then unlocked a side door. Nora waited until he was inside, then slipped in after him. The interior was a cavern of dust and shadows. Old looms stood like skeletons, their belts rotted away, but in one corner, a strange glow pulsed. She crept closer. A row of tape recorders, dozens of them lined on metal shelves. Some were old, reel-to-reel units from the 70s, others cheap plastic handheld ones. Each had a label, dates, times, names, and faintly, beneath the factory's dripping pipes and creaking beams, she heard them voices, layered and overlapping, whispering fragments of things that hadn't happened yet. Someone was making the echoes. Chapter 7. The Archivist. Nora was still crouched by the shelves when she felt it, the sensation of being watched. She straightened slowly, eyes scanning the factory's shadowed corners. He was there, the man in the dark coat. He stepped forward, and the way the light caught his face made her realize she'd seen him before Tuesday nights ever started glimpses in the background of photos. A stranger passing her on the street, always just out of focus. "You're early," he said. His voice was low, calm, but carried through the dusty air like it belonged there. Nora's mouth was dry. "What is this place?" "The archive," he said, gesturing to the rows of tape recorders. "Every echo ever heard in Hollowford is stored here. Some are released. Most are not." She swallowed. "Released?" His lips curled in something that wasn't quite a smile. "The future is loud, Miss Lane, but we decide what people hear, who acts, who stays still. You've been listening well." She shook her head. "I didn't choose to. No one does. Not at first." He moved to one of the shelves, selecting a tape recorder at random. Pressed play. Static then. "At 8:26 tonight, she will be lying in the street. Don't scream." Hare's stomach clenched. "You think that was a warning?" he asked. "It wasn't. It was placement. We placed you there." Nora stepped back, heart pounding. "Now," he said, meeting her eyes, "we have another Tuesday for you." Chapter 8. The Delivery. The man in the dark coat, the archivist he called himself, didn't ask if she'd help. He simply handed her a small recorder wrapped in brown paper, its weight cold and deliberate in her palm. "Play this for him," he said. "Exactly at 7:04 tonight. No sooner, no later." "Who?" she asked. He just smiled. "You'll know when you see him." By the time she left the factory, the instructions felt like they'd sunk under her skin. She told herself she wouldn't do it. She'd smash the thing, leave town, anything but help them. But 6:58 found her standing on a quiet street she didn't recognize, the faint orange glow of sunset bleeding into the sky. She clutched the wrapped recorder in both hands, her pulse quickening with every passing second. At 7:03, a man turned the corner, tall, in a rumpled suit, carrying a grocery bag. He slowed when he saw her, as if sensing something was about to happen. And she knew. This was him. Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the recorder. 7:04 clicked over on her phone screen. She pressed play. "At 10:17 tonight, you will be standing at the bridge. Don't look down." The man's face went pale. He backed away without a word, groceries swinging at his side, and vanished into the evening. Nora stood frozen, the recorder still whirring in her hand. That's when she felt it, that faint shift in the air, the ripple of an echo. Only this one wasn't from the tape. It was inside her head. "This was your first. It won't be your last." Chapter 9. The Bridge. The man's name was Daniel Mercer, and by 9:50 p.m., he'd already broken his first rule. He was going to the bridge. He told himself it was just to see it in daylight's memory, the way it caught the sun, the way the river churned beneath. But of course, it was night now, and the voice from the woman's recorder wouldn't stop replaying in his head. "At 10:17 tonight, you will be standing at the bridge. Don't look down." The streets were empty. A fog had crept in from the water, swallowing the street lamps in pale halos. By 10:12, Daniel's shoes were on the wooden boards, his hand grazing the cold railing. He kept glancing at his watch. 5 minutes. 4, 3. At exactly 10:17, something changed. The sound of footsteps behind him. Slow, deliberate. He turned, but but the fog swallowed whoever it was. All he could see was a faint silhouette, tall, unmoving. Then a voice, not from the figure, but inside his head, whispering the same warning again. "Don't look down," which, of course, made him look down. The river wasn't there. Not exactly. Where the black water should have been, he saw a distorted reflection of the city, brighter, cleaner, but wrong. People walking who were long dead. Places that had burned down decades ago. And in that ghost city's reflection, a version of himself stood at the same railing, looking up at him. Daniel staggered back, heart pounding. The other him smiled. Then the fog closed in completely. Chapter 10. The Shift. Nora didn't sleep. She sat in her apartment with the lights off, the little tape recorder still on the table like it might sprout teeth. Her phone buzzed at 6:12 a.m. No name, just a text. He looked down. She didn't need to ask who. The air felt wrong that morning, like the whole city was holding its breath. And when 10:15 rolled around the usual time for her echoes, it hit harder than ever before, almost doubling her over. But this time, the voice was different, sharper, urgent. "You will not survive Tuesday unless you undo the bridge." She straightened slowly. "Undo the bridge?" she whispered to the empty room. The voice didn't answer. She paced, trying to make sense of it. Daniel had looked into something he shouldn't have, something that wasn't water, wasn't even his world. If the echoes were like ripples, maybe what he saw was spreading. By mid-afternoon, she couldn't fight the pull. She went to the bridge. No fog this time, just the faint smell of rain. She leaned over the railing and stared hard at her own reflection. For a second, it was just her. Then the other version blinked and whispered, though her lips in this world didn't move, "Stop listening, and they'll replace you." Nora stumbled back, her pulse a drumbeat in her ears. The reflection kept watching her, its smile wrong, in a way she couldn't name. When she turned to leave, a shadow was waiting at the far end of the bridge. Tall, still. The Archivist. Chapter 11. Confrontation. The morning fog had turned to a steady drizzle by the time Nora reached the center of the bridge. Her coat clung to her, wet and heavy, and her hair stuck to her forehead. The reflection in the water still trembled, though now she didn't dare look too long. The Archivist stepped closer. His boots made no sound on the wet wood. "You should have stayed home," he said, voice calm but edged with something like amusement. What are you?" Nora demanded, shaking. "Why are you doing this?" He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. "I am the keeper, the curator of what will be, what could be, and what should not be. These echoes, they are instructions, warnings, sometimes tests." Nora's stomach twisted. "Tests? Why me?" "Because you listen," he replied simply. "Most people ignore them. You don't, and that makes you malleable." A ripple ran across the water, and for a heartbeat, she saw the city in the reflection again, but it was burning, twisted, and silent. "You can end this," she whispered, more to herself than him. He tilted his head. "And what would you do? Break the sequence? Undo the echoes? One wrong move and Tuesday becomes permanent." Nora's hands trembled, her eyes darting between the real city and the mirrored one. A plan flickered in her mind. If the echoes can be delivered, maybe they can be reversed. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, louder this time. The Archivist studied her. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. "We'll see. But time is short. 10:17 approaches." The air shifted again, colder now, pressing against her skin. And Nora realized, whatever happened next, the echoes had already begun to shape her. Chapter 12. Echoes from Tuesday. Tuesday arrived like a drumbeat in her chest. Nora didn't sleep at all. Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the drip of rain from the gutter, the whisper of her own heartbeat felt amplified, as if the world itself were holding its breath. The blue envelope rested on her kitchen table, untouched. The tape recorder sat beside it, silent but humming faintly, almost alive. She picked it up, pressed play, and the room filled with layered voices, echoes, fragments of futures not yet lived. "You will decide. You will fail. You will fall." The words repeated, overlapping, faster and faster. She ran to the bridge, the rain soaking her, wind whipping at her face. The archivist was already there, waiting, as still and inscrutable as the last 12 Tuesdays had made him. "Do you know what you're doing?" he asked. "I'm trying to fix it," she said. "To stop the echoes before they hurt anyone else." He shook his head, a shadow of a smile on his lips. "They are not yours to fix." Nora took a deep breath and pressed the tape recorder into the river's reflection, letting the waves swallow it. Instantly, the water trembled. The mirrored city twisted violently, screams echoing silently in her mind. Then she heard her own voice, not recorded, not external, inside the torrent of echoes. "Undo it. Undo it." She closed her eyes, willing the voices to obey, to stop, to release the city from their manipulation. The rain pelted her, blinding, relentless, and then silence. The river's surface stilled. The city's reflection returned to normal. The fog lifted. She opened her eyes. The archivist was gone. The blue envelope and recorder were gone. The world felt ordinary again, but she knew better. The echoes weren't gone. They were just waiting for the next Tuesday. Nora shivered, and for the first time, she understood the warning. Some sounds once heard never truly leave you.